Chris and I focused on travel this past month in the Engineering Career Coach blog. We really feel that traveling can open up your mind and help you to be a more rounded engineer and person overall. If you plan to travel for work or leisure, you will most likely encounter a language other than your primary one. If you plan to visit a certain country on a regular basis, whether it be for an international project or leisure, consider learning the language. For the past 8 months, I have been working hard to learn Spanish. I have had some success in that I am conversational at this point, which for Spanish, a very fast-paced language, I consider a huge success. I have always said that I wanted to learn a language, but never stuck with it, until this year. Here are 5 tools/strategies that I have used to learn the language that you may find helpful. The pace/sounds. When learning a new language, your brain and muscles will have to get used to the new movement and sounds. In addition to this challenge, many languages are fast-paced. For example, in a Spanish conversation, the words are spoken really fast. To get familiar with these sounds and the pace, I used a program called the Mimic Method. This method focuses on pronunciation. The founder believes that once you have the pronunciation of a language down, everything else comes naturally. Essentially, the program teaches you pronunciation through the singing of songs in that new language. Not only has this program made learning fun, but it works and my pronunciation is so much better than I ever anticipated. Vocabulary. While pronunciation and pace are critical when learning a language, you also need to learn vocabulary for that language. I have learned Spanish vocabulary through listening to language learning podcasts and also by reading children's books in Spanish. When I listen to a podcast lesson, I usually type out all of the words so I can see them and review them later on. Reading books forces me to look up the definitions of all of the words I don't know, expanding my vocabulary. 2 podcasts that I have used are the Discover Spanish podcast and Coffee Break Spanish. Grammar. Okay, so you are learning the pace of the language and the vocabulary, but you also must learn grammar if you plan to put together sentences that make sense. To do this, I found a wonderful book called Living Spanish. It is very easy to read and is focused on the grammar of the language. Each chapter has excerpts in Spanish and then exercises at the end, so you have to practice what you learned. The book also has a CD. This is a series of books, and they have them in different languages. Interpreting. When you start to get into conversations with this new language, you will of course need to put all of these previous learning methods together. You will need to be comfortable with the pace, vocabulary, and grammar. What I have done to work on this is listen to Spanish radio stations and watch Spanish television programs. Don't listen or watch for too long at a time. I would say no more than 10 to 20 minutes in the beginning. I actually watched a lot of Disney shows like Mickey Mouse because the words are basic and easier to grasp in the beginning. Conversation. As soon as possible, you must start to converse in this new language, otherwise you will never truly be conversational. This can be difficult if you don't live around people who speak the language. What I recommend is to find a language partner. Someone who speaks the language you are learning, but is trying to learn your primary language. You can help each other through conversations. Here are 3 different language learning forums where you might look to find a language partner. livemocha.com, italki.com/partners, fluentin3months.com/forum/find-a-conversation-exchange. I hope that these resources will help you to learn a second language if you decide to do so. Believe me, learning a second language has really sharpened my learning skills and opened up my career to many new opportunities.